Dr. RJB, wanted to talk a little bit about immunizations or vaccines. I see in the news people who are criticizing vaccines, saying that they're unsafe, that they're going to cause damage. There was a period where people were claiming that the vaccine for measles was causing autism, all kinds of claims, basically. I think one of the things that people need to understand is what life was like before we had vaccines. People had a lot of infectious illnesses before we developed the vaccines. And some of these could be harmless, but some of these could cause serious illness and death. One of the conditions that we have a vaccine for is chickenpox. And people just say, okay, so you have spots on your body from chickenpox. Well, that's great if that's what happens. But chickenpox can also involve the throat area, and people will be having trouble swallowing, sometimes trouble breathing because the throat swells up. There are also cases where chickenpox invades the brain, and people have an encephalitis and can be injured permanently. Some of the other conditions like measles, mumps, German measles, if they get into a pregnant woman, can cause birth defects. So there's a lot of harm that was caused by some of these conditions. Now, I can tell you from a personal point of view, my sister had the medical condition called whooping cough. Our doctor's name for it is pertussis. So people will get a pertussis vaccine when they get their tetanus shot. Tetanus is usually a combination of tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. Pertussis got into my sister when she was a baby. I was probably a small child at that time too. I just remember, something about my mom leaving in the car, and I didn't know why she was leaving me. Apparently my sister was severely ill, wound up in the hospital. And during the hospitalization, when my parents were at the bedside, she was having trouble with her breathing, and it looked like she was going to stop breathing. My parents rushed to the nurse's station, asked them to call the doctor right away. When the doctor came, I guess my sister was in such a bad state that they had to do a surgery to open up her airway, and she was able to survive. But she did have some problems because of this infection. She had some side effects that was left over later on in life. This was a pretty panicky time in our family when it happened. Again, I was a small child when it happened. I didn't even know what happened until later on when my parents talked about it. But that's kind of the things that were happening. We have a vaccination for pneumonia these days. In the old days, pneumonia was killing people left and right. One of the older doctors used to say that pneumonia was the old person's friend. What he meant by that was if somebody was older and was having all the problems of being old, pneumonia would come and take their life. And before we had all these vaccinations and other treatments, the natural lifespan of people was only 45 years of age. These days, the natural lifespan of a person is 80 years of age. So we've almost doubled the lifespan with the medical treatments that we give. So people who are suspicious of medical treatments, who think that vaccines are causing all this harm really just don't know what they're talking about. Just think about the last pandemic we just went through with COVID. 1 million people died of COVID. 1 million people. Can you even imagine that? 1 million people out of our life from the COVID. And now we have a vaccine so that hopefully we're not going to have many more deaths from the COVID because if people are vaccinated and they get the COVID, it's going to be a much milder condition. So, I mean, why would anybody, be afraid of taking that vaccine? I don't understand. There's a lot of conspiracy theories, I think, about these things. People have misinformation and fears. But I think vaccines have done a good job of preventing some serious illnesses, like what happened to my sister. And, like I said, some of the other illnesses that really caused a lot of damage. So I think, for me, I think vaccines are a good thing. I'm glad we have them. Okay, take care, and check out some of my other videos.